She was a struggling single mother with just $187 in her bank account, desperately trying to buy formula for her baby. One late night, with trembling hands, she sent a message meant for her cousin, begging for help. But the message went to the wrong number and landed in the inbox of a billionaire CEO. What happened next? No one saw coming. It wasn't just money he offered. It was a second chance that would change her life forever. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now let's jump into the story. Nina Harris sat at the edge of her worn-out couch, her phone gripped tightly in her tired hands. The small apartment was silent except for the soft breathing of her baby boy, Leo, asleep in his crib. Nina's heart ached. She had just checked her bank account, $187. That wasn't even enough for a loaf of bread, let alone baby formula. Her eyes were red, not from crying, but from staying strong for too long. She hadn't cried in weeks. Not when her hours were cut at the diner. Not when her landlord slipped a final notice under her door. Not even when she skipped dinner for the third night in a row so Leo could have a proper bottle. But tonight she was close. With a deep breath, Nina opened her messages and typed a note to her cousin Jordan, the only person she still felt comfortable asking for help. Jordan, I hate to do this again, but could you please send me $30 for Leo's formula? I get paid Friday, I promise I'll pay you back. Her thumb hovered over the send button. Pride wrestled with desperation. She didn't want to be that person again, always asking, always needing. But Leo needed to eat. She pressed send before she could talk herself out of it, and that was it. She exhaled and tossed the phone onto the couch beside her. Maybe Jordan would help. Maybe he wouldn't. Either way, she had done what she had to do. Across the city, high above the skyline in a glass-paneled office, Theo Marshall was still at work. His company, Marbridge Technologies, was on the verge of launching a new project. Everyone had gone home, but he stayed. He always did. Theo was 43, successful, and by most standards living the dream. But success hadn't filled the space left behind when he lost his daughter 3 years ago. Since then, he had kept his heart hidden behind spreadsheets and late nights. His phone buzzed. Expecting another late message from his assistant, he glanced at the screen. Jordan, I hate to do this again, but could you please send me $30 for Leo's formula? He blinked. The name didn't register. The tone caught him off guard. This wasn't a message meant for him. Only a handful of people had this number. It had to be a mistake. He stared at the words for a few seconds longer than he meant to. Formula for Leo. He could feel the worry in those words. Something about it hit too close to home. After a pause, Theo typed back, I think you sent this to the wrong number. I'm not Jordan. Back in her apartment, Nina's phone buzzed. She picked it up quickly, hoping it was Jordan replying. Her heart dropped. A stranger. I think you sent this to the wrong number. I'm not Jordan. She stared at the screen, frozen. Her fingers trembled as she typed, Oh no, I'm so sorry. Please ignore that. Humiliation burned through her. She tossed the phone away and covered her face with her hands. She had asked a total stranger for money. How much lower could she sink? She sat in silence, trying to swallow her shame, when the phone pinged again. Will your baby be okay? Nina, read the words twice. Who was this person? Why were they still messaging her? She hesitated. We'll manage. Sorry again for bothering you. Another message arrived. I could help. No strings attached. Nina rolled her eyes. Of course. Here it was. The catch. Nothing in life came free, and kindness usually came with conditions. Thanks, but I don't take money from strangers. The reply came fast. Smart choice, but now I'm not a stranger. My name's Theo. What formula does your baby need? Nina stared at the message, torn between fear and a strange feeling she hadn't had in a long time. Hope. This could be a scam, or a setup, or something worse. But then again, what did she have to lose? It's called gentle care. It's the only one that doesn't upset Leo's stomach. What's your payment app? She paused. Was she really going to do this? She typed it in and hit send. Seconds later, her phone buzzed. $300 received. Her jaw dropped. This is too much. I can't accept this, she wrote quickly. Think of it as help for the next couple of months, he replied. One less thing to worry about. Tears finally came. Not from hunger or stress or fear, but from kindness. Thank you, she typed, her vision blurry. You're welcome, Nina. Take care of Leo. Her breath caught in her throat. She had never mentioned Leo's name. The morning sun peeked through the thin curtains of Nina's small apartment. She hadn't slept much. Leo had stirred off and on through the night, but that wasn't what kept her awake. Her mind had been spinning since the stranger, Theo, sent her $300 with no warning, no questions, and no strings. Kindness like that didn't just fall into your lap. Not in her world. She sat at the tiny kitchen table, cradling a cup of instant coffee. The can of formula she had bought with the money sat next to Leo's clean bottles. For the first time in days, her baby had gone to bed with a full belly. That should have been enough, and yet she kept thinking about that final message. You're welcome, Nina. Take care of Leo. She never told him Leo's name. Her phone buzzed again. Morning. Hope you and Leo slept better. I have a question. Do you have any accounting experience? Nina blinked. That was not what she expected. She typed back slowly. A little. I used to work at a car dealership. I did their books part-time. I run a nonprofit. We're preparing for an audit, and we're short-staffed. Would you be interested in helping out? Just a temporary contract. Paid, of course. Nina stared at the screen. She didn't know what to say. A stranger sends you money. Now he's offering you a job? This had to be a scam. Why me? She finally replied. You don't know me. You're right. I don't. But something tells me you're honest. And that matters more than a resume sometimes. Her eyes flicked to the envelope taped to her fridge. Her eviction notice. She had 5 days. She didn't want to trust him. But her options were drying up fast. Tell me more, she typed. Later that afternoon, Nina stood in front of a building that looked nothing like she'd imagined. She'd expected something cold and corporate, but the Bright Path Foundation office had large windows, plants in the lobby, and a quiet hum of activity inside. She adjusted her second-hand blazer and carried Leo in a cloth sling across her chest. Her hands were sweaty. She felt out of place. A woman with a gentle smile greeted her at the front desk. Hi, you must be Nina. I'm Clara. Theo asked me to walk you through everything. Nina smiled nervously. Is he here? Clara shook her head. He's at a conference today, but he said to make you comfortable. Comfortable wasn't a word Nina associated with offices, but Clara wasn't like the usual office types. She was calm, welcoming, and offered to watch Leo for a few minutes while Nina looked through a folder of documents in a small side room. We just need these invoices organized and entered into our system, Clara explained. You can work, here for now, or take them home if it's easier. Nina nodded. This is fine. Is it really okay if Leo stays with me? We support working parents here, Clara said with a wink. Theo insists. That sentence surprised Nina. A part of her expected there to be a catch. But no one had asked for her social security number. No one had made her sign anything weird. They just gave her a chance. She sat at the small desk, opened the folder, and began. Over the next few days, Nina returned to the office, always bringing Leo along. Clara helped with the baby when she could, and a few other staff smiled and cooed at him. No one treated Nina like a burden. She worked quietly, carefully organizing files and double-checking figures. And then she noticed something strange. A few receipts had numbers that didn't match the digital records. It was small at first, $89.17 instead of $81.17, easy to miss. But Nina had an eye for details. Always had. She found 3 more that looked similar. At lunch, she hesitated before asking Clara, "Do you know who handles these reports after me?" Clara looked curious. Why? Some of the numbers don't match up. I'm not sure if it's a mistake or... Clara gave her a thoughtful look. I'll let Theo know. He'll want to see your notes. That night, back at home, Nina sat on the floor with Leo, watching him kick his tiny legs in the air. Her mind wasn't on baby giggles or lullabies. It was on spreadsheets and mismatched invoices. Her phone buzzed again. Hey, Clara told me about the errors you spotted. Thank you. I'd like to talk more tomorrow if you're free. Sure, Nina replied. Then she paused and added, Theo, why are you really helping me? There was a longer delay than usual before his reply came. Because once I lost someone very important, and when I got your message that night, I thought maybe I could do something good again. Nina didn't know what to say to that, but for the first time in a long time she believed someone meant what they said. It had been 2 weeks since Nina first walked through the doors of Bright Path Foundation. What started as a strange and sudden offer had become a steady rhythm in her life. Each day, she came in early with Leo in her arms. There was a little play area now set up in the corner of the small room they gave her. A soft blanket, a few toys, and a second-hand crib someone from the office had donated. Nina worked hard, quietly, carefully. She was used to staying unnoticed. But now she was being noticed for something good, for her sharp eyes and honest work. And she was finding more things wrong with the financial records. At first, she thought they were simple mistakes, but the pattern was too clear. Small amounts, scattered across months, hidden in the details. It looked like someone was slowly pulling money from the organization. Nina brought her notes to Theo the next morning. He looked more serious than usual as he flipped through the pages she'd printed. This is impressive, he said, eyebrows raised. Nina tried to stay calm. Do you think it's fraud? Theo didn't answer right away. He closed the folder and leaned back in his chair. I think we need to talk privately, he said quietly. Come, with me. He led her to a room she hadn't seen before, tucked behind a heavy door near his office. It looked like a storage room at first, filing cabinets, shelves of binders, but there was something else. A table covered in documents, color-coded notes, and sticky tabs. I've been collecting these for months, Theo said. I knew someone was taking money, but I couldn't figure out how, or who I could trust. Nina looked around, shocked. You knew? I had a feeling, but no solid proof. Everyone here is connected to each other, friends, longtime staff. I needed someone from the outside, someone honest. Nina's heart beat faster. You used me, she said softly. Theo looked her straight in the eye. I gave you a real job. I never lied to you. But yes, I hoped you'd notice something I couldn't. She stepped back, unsure of how to feel. Before she could respond, Clara burst into the room, breathless. You need to see this. There's a man asking for Nina at the front desk. Said his name is Mason Trent. Theo's expression darkened. Mason's our chief financial officer, he said, and the one I've been watching. Nina felt a chill down her back. What does he want with me? Theo didn't answer. He turned to Clara. Tell him she's in a meeting. Don't let him in, and keep Leo close. Clara nodded and rushed. Off. Nina turned to Theo. What's happening? I think he suspects we're onto him, Theo said. And if he's desperate, he might do something stupid. Nina's phone buzzed in her pocket. A new number. Ms. Harris, this is Detective Alina Reyes. We'd like to speak with you about financial matters at Bright Path. Please call me back. She looked up in alarm. The police? Why are they calling me? Theo closed the door and lowered his voice. I didn't want to involve you this deeply, but it's moving faster than I expected. Mason's been stealing from this foundation for almost 2 years. I've been working with law enforcement, but we needed hard evidence. Your records might be the final piece. Nina's hand shook. This is too much. I didn't sign up for this. I know, Theo said. But you might be the only person who can help stop him. Suddenly the door opened again. Clara was back, face pale. The police are here. They're asking questions about both of you. Mason's saying you and Theo stole the money. Nina felt like the floor dropped beneath her. What? Theo didn't flinch. That's his move. Blame someone else, make us look guilty. Clara spoke fast. They say they want to bring you both in for questioning. And they're threatening to call child services. Nina's breath caught. No, not Leo. They can't take him. They won't, Theo said firmly. Clara, take Nina and Leo to the safe apartment. You know the one. Clara nodded without hesitation. Nina blinked. Safe apartment? It's a backup plan, Theo said. We'll figure this out. I'll stay and deal with the police. You go. Protect Leo. Please just trust me. The apartment was quiet, clean, tucked in an older building downtown with a keypad lock and a fridge stocked with food. Nina paced the living room while Leo napped peacefully in the crib Clara had set up. Her phone buzzed again. Another new number. Are you safe? She typed back instantly. Who is this? It's me, Theo. The FBI is ready. We need you. Will you help finish this? Nina stood at the window, watching the night lights of the city flicker. Everything in her life had changed in just a few weeks. From a wrong message to all of this. She looked over at Leo, sleeping soundly. She could run, or she could fight. I'll be there. The morning of the board meeting came with a gray sky and steady rain. Nina stood outside the Bright Path building, heart pounding. Leo safe with Clara at the nearby safe apartment. She took a deep breath and stepped inside, walking past the front desk and into the elevator with 2 FBI agents by her side. This was it. She wasn't just a tired mom today. She was a witness. She was the truth. Upstairs, the boardroom was packed, men and women in suits, reporters waiting outside. Nervous glances and whispered chatter filled the air. At the head of the long table stood Mason Trent, the company's chief financial officer. His smile was wide but didn't reach his eyes. I'm glad you're all here, he began, voice strong and clear. I have to report a serious issue. There's been theft, millions lost, and I've discovered who's behind it. The room went silent. It's Theo Marshall and his assistant Nina Harris. They've been moving money quietly, preparing to leave the company. Nina's heart nearly stopped. The lie rolled off his tongue so easily. Her hands curled into fists. Theo sat calmly beside her, showing no emotion. That's a serious accusation, Theo said. Let's hear another side. At that moment, the door opened. Nina stood and walked in with the agents beside her. Heads turned. Murmurs filled the room. She took her seat, pulled out her documents, and looked directly at the board. My name is Nina Harris. 2 months ago, I sent a message asking for help. It reached the wrong person. But that mistake led me here. She held up a folder of papers. I've been reviewing the company's financial files. I found false invoices, altered numbers, missing amounts. All of it traces back to one person. She turned her eyes to Mason. You. Mason laughed, but his voice shook. She's lying. Who is she anyway? Some woman you found on the street? Nina stood tall. I may not have a fancy title, but I know math. And I know what I found. And now so does the FBI. An agent stepped forward, placing more files on the table. Mason Trent, you are under investigation for financial fraud, embezzlement, and obstruction. Mason's face turned pale. His eyes darted to the door. Then he reached into his jacket. Everything happened fast. Theo stood and stepped in front of Nina. The agents lunged forward, a loud shout, a struggle, and then Mason was on the ground. Restrained, a small device clutched in his hand. A USB drive. He hadn't pulled a weapon. He had been trying to destroy evidence. The agents removed him from the room as the board sat in stunned silence. Nina sat back down, shaking slightly. Theo looked at her and whispered, "You were amazing." A week later, the office was calmer. The storm had passed. Theo was cleared. Mason was gone. The truth had come out. Nina sat in Theo's office, Leo babbling in her lap. Theo walked in holding a folder. "This is for you," he said. She opened it. A job contract. Director of Internal. Audits full-time, full benefits, daycare included. Her own office. "This is more than I ever expected," she said softly. "You earned it," he replied. "You saved this place." She smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek. "Thank you for trusting me, even when I didn't trust myself." "There's one more thing," he added, reaching into his desk. He handed her a small card, the Leo Light Initiative, a new program, funding for single parents in crisis, job training, emergency help and support. "We're naming it after Leo, because your message changed everything, and I want other parents to know that even one wrong message can lead to the right help." Nina covered her mouth, overcome with emotion. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll help me run it." She nodded slowly, then hugged him. Not out of romance, but out of something even deeper. Respect, gratitude, hope. 6 months later, the Bright Path holiday party lit up the office with music and laughter. Staff mingled, children ran around with balloons, and a tall tree sparkled in the corner. Nina stood near the buffet table, watching Leo toddle across the room in his tiny sweater, giggling as Clara chased him playfully. Theo joined her, handing her a cup of warm cider. "You think he knows this all started with him?" he asked with a smile. "I think he just knows he's loved," she said. They looked out at the crowd, smiles everywhere, peace, safety. "I used to think one mistake would ruin my life," Nina said quietly. "And now?" Theo asked. She looked at him and smiled. "Now I believe a mistake can be the start of a miracle."